Erik Huberman is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media, the fastest growing marketing consultancy in the United States. Launched in 2014, Hawke Media has been valued at nine figures, and has grown his company from 7 employees to over 300 employees internationally. Might be a lot more than that now. The company has serviced over 3,000 brands of all sizes, from startups to household names like Red Bull, Verizon, Alibaba. Hawke Media has also taken home numerous industry awards, including Inc. 500's list of fastest growing companies, Fortune magazine's 50 best workplaces, with Erik being named the International Business Awards Entrepreneur of the Year in advertising, marketing, and public relations. As a serial entrepreneur and marketing expert, Erik is a sought-after leader in the world of digital marketing and entrepreneurship. He's also a regular contributor to major publications like Forbes and Entrepreneur magazine. He's also just released his new book, which we were talking about before we started, The Hawke Method. Erik, welcome to the GpG Mastermind this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, man. As I was saying, excited to have you here today. We're really fortunate to have you here to talk about all things branding and marketing, because you have a different perspective, as we'll find out, a little bit of a disruptor in the marketing space, which is really good because everyone here today is in the marketing business. Everyone. It's a pet peeve of mine. I say it all the time. If you're a real estate agent, you're not a real estate agent. Stop telling people that. You're a professional marketer. So that's why it's going to be good to pick your brain. But first, for some context, what's your background, Erik? Because I like your backstory. It's very interesting. How did you get into the world of advertising, marketing, and branding?
Yeah, growing up, my dad was a waste and real estate guy, funny enough. So as we're talking here, he built a waste company throughout California and then used that money to get into real estate investing and development. And so in like high school, I decided I want to get into real estate too. Started studying it. I actually worked for him for a summer and realized I could never work for my dad, but I still liked the category. So I'd go figure it out myself. So I graduated from college, and in 2008, I went to work for a commercial real estate agency 1 week before Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and the whole banking industry collapsed. So that was fun. Nobody knew what that meant at the time. Similar to like right now, like everyone was just like, this looks bad, but what is this? What's the lagging? What's this going to feel like later, et cetera. So in that year, I had 35 million in listings at 21 years old, and I made $350 in a broker opinion of value, and did not make any more money than that, which for those that haven't been to Los Angeles, $350 is not enough to live off of. So I
think that gets you lunch at Sugarfish. I think that's about it.
You could get it. Exactly. And that's frankly probably where I would have spent it, and probably where most people that live in LA, well, that's what they do. They'd make $350 in a year. They'd have one Sugarfish lunch and then figure it out. So I started trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because I realized that just wasn't working. And I had no context. I didn't know how long a recession lasts, et cetera. But I was like, I can't live off this. I'm going into credit card debt. I got to figure it out. So I started working on different online projects. I had always like built little websites as a kid, and I tried to build an e-commerce site when I was 12, and actually got it launched, and then found out that I needed what was called a seller's permit to actually resell goods. So I went to apply for one. Turns out you had to be 18. Asked my dad to apply for one, and he said, I am not getting you a seller's permit. I don't know what you're doing, but no. I was like, all right, well, there that goes. But so then I got back into that, and I ended up, really long story short, I ended up launching an online music company that was basically like business coaching for musicians. Think of it as like masterclass for the music business, targeting independent artists, and built that for 2 years. It was profitable. And then realized it was never going to be that big of a business, and I wanted to build something that had, some real opportunity. And so I hired a CEO to take my place. I ended up building a t-shirt subscription site called Swag of the Month in 2010. That was one of the first ever e-commerce subscription companies. So we got a ton of press, a ton of notoriety. We ended up selling it a year and a half later. That's when I joined this little incubator called Science that was launching a bunch of e-commerce companies, and they had just launched a company called Dollar Shave Club. And advised them on marketing as well as a lot of their other brands, and spent a year there, helped them build an activewear brand. This was like peak Lululemon era, where like that is what every woman in the United States, I don't know, Canada probably too, wore. And so we basically found their factories, figured out how to make it at half the price of Lululemon, but the same materials, and sold it that way. I had many cease and desist from Lululemon, but I ended up building it for a year, selling it to Bowie Total Fitness, which is a huge gym chain at the time here. And then that's when I spun out. I started advising and consulting for a bunch of brands, big ones like Red Bull, Verizon, HP, as well as a lot of startups, and just found that almost everyone struggles with finding marketing help. That it was I was advising for these guys on how to grow, and even Red Bull, when it came time to execute, would be like, okay, who's going to do this? Like, who actually understands influencer marketing? That's what the project I was doing with Red Bull is working with digital influencers. And I would try to hire agencies and they drop the ball, try to help them hire in-house. And there were a ton of problems there. And so I just went, screw it. I'm just going to hire my own little team to help these guys out. So started with 7 people, each with their own expertise, like a Facebook marketer, an email marketer, a web designer, and went back to these companies and just said, hey, it's all a la carte, month to month, cheaper than hiring in-house, but you can spin up what you need when you need it and ebb and flow as your needs change. And that was the nascence of it. As mentioned, now about 300 people. We run marketing currently for about 600 brands, but we've grown over 4,000 in the past almost 9 years. We also have a venture fund. We're on our second fund. It's a $50 million fund. We have a software arm now called Hawke AI that basically plugs into all your marketing channels and actually in real time will tell you how things are performing, as well as how they're benchmarking against your industry, which has been a huge problem for companies. We see our numbers going up and down, but is that our fault or is that just the market? And so now we can actually show people that. Wrote the book, got a best-selling book, which we put out in March and has sold about 25,000 copies on basically my favorite review, which the guy deleted, which just crushed me because I never got a screenshot of it. But it was the first day it put up 1 star. I don't get it. It's just modern marketing 101. That's exactly what it is. Well done.
It's exactly what it is. He gave you a 1-star review.
Yeah, he was not happy that it was modern marketing, or he wasn't happy he didn't get it. I don't know which part he wasn't happy about. But
what was he looking for? I'm curious what he was looking for. Some archaic.
I don't know, but what happened was I looked the guy up on LinkedIn just because I was like, I'm curious who this is, because you put your name on it, and immediately he sent me a message apologizing and took his review down. And I was like, oh, don't do that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, listen, let's get into it. We actually have a visual of the book, Nathan. I don't know if you can share. So it is the Hawke Method, right? Written by Erik Huberman. Now, this is really interesting. When it comes to branding and marketing, and we're talking about the book, it looks like you've codified the process or run through your process or your approach to marketing with the book, right? The 3 principles of marketing that made over 3,000 brands. Sorry, you said 4,000 now. So that's growing. Yep. So what was the genesis behind the book? Like, why did you write it?
Yeah, it was... even from like the first year at Hawke, I was being asked to speak on marketing a lot. Like we hit the ground running really quick, and I also had a background in it, is why I was able to start Hawke Media. So I continued to speak on how we looked at marketing, and in our business, excuse me, we do a lot of upfront work in terms of like auditing a company, but we need to make that efficient and quick to be able to look at a company, understand where their opportunities are and where their challenges are, and then be able to prescribe, like, this is exactly what you need to start with. This is your issues. And so that really is the Hawke Method, is how do you look at a marketing strategy and quickly discern where the opportunity is to actually improve it? Because based on certain metrics, based on certain performance, like you want to be able to hone in on from a bird's eye view, like this is where the categories that we should be looking at, and then let's spearhead it into exactly what's missing in this marketing strategy. So then we can jump in and do it. And we're not selling someone something they don't need, and we're focused on the things that are going to move the needle for them. And so that was a strategy I had to do myself to work with clients. Then I got asked to speak on marketing, and I would talk about how I did that. Because frankly, I think one of the mistakes a lot of speakers make is speaking on things they don't know quickly. I can, wing. It's actually happening in a few hours. I just got asked to speak virtually for Shop Talk, which is like the biggest e-commerce conference of the year. And they let me know on Sunday that I'm moderating a panel today and gave me the topic, but it's stuff I know. So no big deal. Let's go. Same thing with speaking in general, and same thing with writing a book. When I went to write this, what it was I met a friend of a friend that had a book marketing agency and said, have you thought about writing a book? I'm like, I have, but I don't know, like this would be the topic I'd run and write basically our marketing thesis, et cetera. And he said, well, there's an easy way to do it. You can just record on Zoom. It's about 30 minutes a chapter. So write an outline, we record on Zoom, we'll get it transcribed. I'll edit it first, then you edit it, and you've got a book. Yeah, that's very doable. And so it literally took, I think it's 7.5 hours. It was 30 minutes a chapter, and plus, writing the outline, but it was really quick because I had all the knowledge ready. I didn't, what do you call it? The quotes and the evidence that I put into the book was actually me saying, okay, let's find evidence for this, and him going and doing research. So I had a lot of help in that way, but I was able to just spit it out in my own words. It reads like I talk, and that was the whole idea. So
yeah, it's awesome. And you know what I love about the book? It's a fantastic book. It doesn't matter where you are in your business, whether you're a sole proprietor, an individual, or a large company, the principles apply, right? Yeah. It's universal, right? So the principles are universal. In particular, though, you talk about the 3 pillars to marketing, right? The 3 pillars. Can you break those down for us? This is the meat of it, Erik, and I want everybody to pay close attention to this. So there's 3 specific pillars to marketing that Erik talks about in his approach to marketing and branding.
Yeah, it's awareness, nurturing, and trust. Those, like, over and over again, it falls into one of those categories. And certain.
Wait, hold on. Awareness.
Yep.
Nurturing.
And don't worry, I'll recap it a few times.
Okay.
Yeah, but awareness, nurturing, and trust. I wasn't just going to be like, and that's it, you're done. But yeah, basically the thought here is there's certain marketing tactics that fall into different categories, like 2 or 3 of these. But if you are struggling in your marketing, and everyone is, there's infinite opportunity cost in marketing. So there's always some category that you can do better in, or all 3. And one of them that you're weaker in than the other 2. And that's the idea here, is where should you be spending your time? And so awareness is what most people think of as marketing. It's how do I reach a new potential customer and introduce them to myself? So it's advertising, it's PR, it's word of mouth, it's all sorts of ways that you are reaching a new potential customer that didn't know you exist. Nurture. And so again, that's awareness. Nurturing, second pillar, is the part that almost every marketer misses if they're not super savvy. And the reason nurturing exists, and what nurturing is what you do from the time someone is introduced to your brand to the time they actually become a customer. They pay you, they sign a contract, a listing, whatever it is. It's that period. And what people miss it's rational, but people miss it in tactics, is people take time to think about buying something. So in this data-driven marketing world that we live in, a lot of people read their data on like a daily, weekly basis, even though most people don't purchase that fast. Like, how many of you have met someone off the street and that day gotten a listing? Yeah, never happens. Like, and by the way, I would actually not be surprised if someone raised their hand and was just that much of a rock star. I'm sure it has happened.
Brian's like,
Brian, you done it?
Yeah, Brian, probably, I would say. That's my just.
So the point being, it's the same thing with every business. Like, it takes time. People think about things. It also just takes time to get someone a contract or show them everything they need to know to buy something. Like, it just takes time. And, favorite line of this, and 9 women can't have a baby in a month. Like, it's just, there's no just rushing that. It takes time, and people take time. And so in e-commerce, as an example, the average e-commerce purchase takes somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months. And so on average, it's about 5 weeks. So if you're not running your marketing in a way that is not just tracking to assume that when you spend money today, it's going to take an average of 5 weeks to see a return, then that's going to hurt you, because you're probably going to end up cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you're measuring it day by day. You're not seeing returns. You cut it off. Happens all the time. Number 2, if you're not doing things during that 5-week period, and again, I don't know what your guys' sales cycle is, but it's fun to track. If you have a good CRM, it's really easy to track. But seeing how long does that take, and what do you do during that period? What are your tactics? How do you optimize for that? So email marketing is really great, SMS marketing, even just checking in on the phone, sending more content. I'm a big fan of content that provides the value they're trying to look to you to provide. So with you guys, it's easy. Housing reports, things like that, like different reports that come in that allow you to show that you're going to serve the value that they're looking for when they actually hire you as a customer. Content can be a great reinforcement tool for that. It's also a great word of mouth tool. If you're sending great content out and their friend is looking for a property, now they can send it to them because they want to be helpful, but it has your name on it. You just got more awareness about yourself. So big fan of content, really hard to track, but really powerful. And so that's nurturing, is what do you do during that period to keep in touch, to keep warming them up, to keep building that value proposition so that you end up getting a customer. The last piece, trust. It's synonymous with brand. And basically, when you're just starting out, nobody knows who you are. No one trusts you. They don't know if you're going to take care of them, and word of mouth can help with this a lot. If you're getting intros, obviously there's inherent trust. Introductions and referrals are awesome because trust is built pretty quick. You're getting the trust of the person that referred. But that is exactly what the beginning in trust is it's borrowing it from third party. It's third party validation. So it could be from a referral. It could be from reviews. People read them. They see a bunch of positive reviews. They might like it. It could be PR. It can be influencers. It can be lots of different things that provide that, again, that validation because it's a trusted third party. Little fun but dangerous note here that is leverageable. Actually, I don't know if this was popular up there. Did you guys ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah, we know the show.
Great. Yeah. So for people that didn't, the whole show is about this guy telling past tense how he met, talking to his kids about how he met their mother. But it's basically a show about him dating different girls and trying to figure it out. It's like a sitcom. And the main character, Ted, is always trying to meet his next girlfriend, wife, etc. And the whole show series is about this. And he's got one of his best friends is this total womanizer named Barney. And Barney's one of his favorite things to do with Ted is to go into a bar, walk up to a random girl and go, "Hey, have you met my friend Ted?" And it was an opening line that worked every time because, and by the way, it does work because it's natural. If they didn't know Barney, but they're just like, "Oh, okay, hey Ted." That's third part. I always share that because it is such simple human psychology, but it works. I don't need to get an intro from necessarily someone I trust. It could be an intro from anyone. And it's just like, well, you think I should talk to them. It happens to me all the time, by the way. I get random emails. It's like, "Hey, Eric, it's been a while. I wanted you to meet Brad. I think you guys would hit it off and I think you guys should connect." It's like, and I'm really careful with my calendar. So most people are not as slammed and like people are willing to talk. So things like that, again, if they actually trust the person, it goes a lot further, but they'll at least open the door a lot of times just from some third-party validation. Same thing with Amazon reviews is a good example of this. Like, does anyone actually trust that Amazon reviews are real? Show of hands. Cool. Does anyone look at Amazon reviews when they buy something? Show of hands. So awesome. And by the way, this is every time. This was a more recent thing I realized, but like every time I bring this up, it's the same thing. Like everybody looks at Amazon reviews and everybody thinks they're bullshit, but we still look at them. So that's again, third-party validation. It's sometimes you just want to like check the box. Now, what happens over time is as you build consistency, as you build awareness, as people start to see you consistently in the market and you're known for delivering certain things, that third-party validation becomes less important because you have your own brand and there's trust inherent in that. Same thing with the biggest brands in the world. You don't need anyone to tell you what an iPhone's going to do. No one told you to buy your last iPhone. You look at it, you go, you know what Apple produces, you have trust there, good or bad. And that's super important to remember. Like your brand can be bad too. If you're known as the person that always rips people off, that is your brand. That will hurt you. So brand can be good or bad. It's really what you consistently deliver. So it's all about remembering that. And if you can consistently deliver value for people, your reputation becomes a really powerful tool too. And that works for every type of brand or individual. And right. that's modern marketing 101. But yeah, we can get into all the, like what the book gets into is all the different channels you can use, all the different tactics, but that's the general idea around the Hawke Method is awareness, nurturing, and trust. 3 pillars. If you don't use them all, think of it as a tripod. The thing collapses. You've got to have trust to get people to convert. You've got to nurture them or they just forget about you. And you've obviously got to build top of the funnel or you just start nurturing your own audience. And I always explain to people because I have run into this many times, even with multi-billion-dollar brands that are not doing like top of funnel advertising and things. And they're like, no, we're just nurturing our existing audience. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to lose customers. They're like, no, customers love us. I'm like, no, let me explain. Like, let's say that they don't find someone, another product that they like better, or they don't, move and can't get as close access to your product or whatever it is that could drive a customer away. People die. Like, I don't mean to get morbid here, but it's just the truth is like at the end of the day, there's 100 different things that can lose you a customer. And there's one guaranteed way to lose a customer. So if you're not always bringing in new people at scale, you're going to shrink by nature. By the way humans are designed, you will lose business and continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. So you have to be building that top of the funnel always.
Yeah, 100%. Makes sense. So just to recap, awareness, nurturing, and trust. And obviously, the book goes into detail on those 3 pillars there to marketing. Now, like when it comes to like, you've worked with thousands of brands, obviously, as we've been talking about, like, where does it begin for you when you sit down to look at, branding, right? Like, what's the process when you sit down with a company or a brand? Where does it start for you?
For branding? Yeah, it's figuring out what is the aspiration people are trying to achieve when they buy your product. And when I say aspiration, it's not as grandiose as it sounds. If people are completely satisfied at where they are in the place they're in, they don't buy anything. and I mean this as minimal as I buy socks because my socks look old or because they have a hole in them. I have an aspiration not to have socks with holes in them. Like that's what I mean by that. So like I'm using aspiration, a very general term, but that is the case. So when you're figuring out how to create your brand, well, what are people trying to aspire to that they're going to come to me and pay me to reach that aspiration? Now let's create a brand that represents that. And that's really how I look at it. And then when you're designing the logo and all that, to me, it's a religious symbol. And that's how I look at it. I mean, Hawke, I'm wearing it right now. There you go. This Hawke, that's how when I designed this, I designed it with literally a college friend. I started this company when I was 26 and just called a friend from college. I was like, can you design like Hawke Media lowercase with like a hawk landing on the K, and like had this idea in my head, and she literally nailed it the first time. I was like, perfect, thank you. It's like when I read the Nike book, I was like, yeah, exactly. I paid her like $300 and got the Hawke Media logo. But I was very specific on, I want a symbol that's easy to draw, that's easy to reproduce, that I can put on shirts, flags, hats, whatever, that like our team's going to care about, that our customers are going to see, that's like really flying our flag. And I always think that that's important with any business, is like, what's a symbol people can rally around that can, as you create that emotional appeal to your company, you have that symbol. And look at every top company, they all have it. That's what's, it's not, this isn't anything new. So that's the logo side of it. Again, the brand and the way you speak, the brand voice, the design, all needs to fit this aspiration of what are you trying to achieve, and how are you going to be, how is that going to represent that? That being said, I truly believe that your actions and your consistency is the term I like to use a lot of, that creates your brand. Your branding, it just becomes a symbol for that. So hence, like the biggest companies in the world are ridiculous. Amazon, Google, like doesn't mean anything. Like you don't think Amazon and think the Amazon rainforest. That doesn't correlate at all in anyone's head anymore. Maybe it did at the very beginning, but that they've created that brand. So, and literally Google, I know what Google means, but it's basically gibberish, but becomes one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the biggest brands in the world. Apple, same thing. It's not like it has anything to do with an apple. It's just Apple, and that they've created their own brand. So how the company acts is what actually creates the brand. It's just good to have a symbol that makes it really easy to continue to reinforce it.
Man, I love those thoughts. Could be a lion, right? Carlos, Chelsea, could be a lion. Could be the LTW, Len T. Wong. What a great logo, the LTW. I love that. But yeah, a religious symbol. Hey man, you're rocking it. Looks good. I like the Hawke.
Thank you.
So when it comes to like marketing, advertising, what are some of the biggest mistakes or mistake you see companies making or businesses making when it comes to marketing?
Yeah, the number one is not understanding purchase cycle. Literally easy number one. Like it's not even close, because there's plenty of other mistakes people make, but they're the most common one is, and we deal with it all the time. I'd say not understanding purchase cycle and not understanding the data you're collecting. Though, because right now we're living a time now where it is really easy to have data, like how many people clicked through my ad, how many people ended up signing up to my form, and so you have all this data in front of you, but a lot of people take their spreadsheets as if they're dictating how things are going versus an insight into how things are going. And that's the problem, is like the difference between this is all the information and this is a window into the information, and understanding the context where the data is coming from. What I mean by that, here's a good example. Show of hands, does anyone know about like iOS 14 and how Facebook has just been demolished by it? I want to know like how much I'm speaking out of it.
No,
like,
tell us. I want to hear about this. I didn't know this actually.
Oh, okay. Because like in my world, this happened a year and a half ago, and it's like all people talk about. So, and what happened was April of last year, Apple came out with an update that basically stopped Facebook's ability from tracking on iPhones. And iPhones are, 80% of Facebook traffic. So all of a sudden, all the tracking that Facebook had went away. And so to give context there, we talked about purchase cycle. So most of e-commerce lives off Facebook advertising. That's been the lifeblood of it. And so Facebook used to track basically 28 days from when someone clicked an ad. It could tell you if they purchased, if they revisited your site, all their activities. So you can see a 28-day window. As I mentioned earlier, assume most e-commerce companies are around a month purchase cycle. 28 days is a pretty good window. You could actually get a pretty good idea based on that of what was performing. When Apple cut off Facebook, Facebook can no longer track. So what they did was they changed to a 1 week tracking window, but it's not tracking, it's algorithmic based. So based on all the data they have, they assume what kind of conversions you're getting, what kind of money you're making off their ads based on clicks, based on what they can track on their end. but it's 7 days, not 28. So immediately Facebook's now reporting your 1 week window instead of your 28-day week window. Everything looks horrible. How many people purchase, like same thing with you guys. Like if I looked at your CRM and I said, well, how many people from the time you meet them become a customer in 30 days? And then I shrink that to 7, it's going to look way worse. It's pretty simple. Here's the issue is 95% of marketers don't understand this. So they're just looking at Facebook and going, oh, Facebook says our performance is way down year over year. It's awful. Facebook's not working. Pull our money off Facebook. And this actually happened. We had a client, Facebook was reporting that they were spending $1 and making $1. Basically, they're spending $100,000 a month in advertising, making $100,000 a month. Well, that doesn't make any sense. They have a cost of goods. They have other things. That's not scalable. But it's really easy. The thing is, Apple specifically attacked Facebook because they want to launch their own ad platform. They didn't cut off other tools. So there's third-party tracking tools you can use that actually give you the real window into it. So we plugged in one of those, looked at their tracking, looked at their data on their site. It turned out they were spending $100,000 to make $1.4 million within a month. But what Facebook is telling them is they're spending 100 to make 100. They didn't believe us. They said, "Oh no, that's not right. Look, you guys think you have better tracking than Facebook? That's crazy." They turned off their marketing, $100,000. 2 months later, that 1.4 million was gone. Just their whole revenue collapsed. And this has happened across the entire e-commerce industry. This has been the first year Facebook has shown revenue decline, all because of this. And yet Facebook is not speaking to it because I think they don't want to be seen as weak. So and frankly, Mark Zuckerberg's focused on the metaverse and doesn't care about Facebook anymore. But yeah, so what ends up happening is the entire e-commerce industry in the United States is down 20% year over year because of misreading data. Here's the crux of all of this. Does anyone here think that people stopped buying on Facebook through Facebook ads because Facebook's tracking system doesn't work? No. Human behavior didn't change because of a technology system between Apple and Facebook. So people are still buying just fine. If you're not tracking it properly, though, you're going up, never mind, and turning it off. We actually had another customer that had a similar problem. We tried to explain it to them. They called me a narcissist. They're like, "You think you can track better than Facebook? You're a narcissist." I'm like, wrong use of the word, but fair enough. And that was it for working with that company. So
they actually called you a narcissist.
Yeah, verbatim. Which was, again, wrong use of the word. I was like, that maybe egomaniac if you're saying I think that I'm better than Facebook, but narcissist doesn't apply. That's a little
strong. That's a little strong.
Yeah,
but honestly, like we really appreciate you breaking that down. We wouldn't. I mean, has anybody ever heard of this? I never heard of this. So it's really interesting to hear that breakdown and understand it. Right. It's funny because people, we kind of make fun of Facebook, but it's still the go-to.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and it still should be. That's the thing is and TikTok is quickly going to win. Like they're already getting close. Like my social teams, basically, they call it 1A and 1B now. They're like, it's not even like 1 and 2. It's like just barely not there, meaning TikTok. And it'll be a matter of like, it could be a month before like they're beating Facebook. The usage on TikTok is way better. You still have the ability to go viral. Like TikTok, I hate to say it because I'm worried about like the data implications in China and all that and how they leverage that. But at the same time, like if you're just talking about ad platforms, like TikTok is crushing it right now for anyone, real estate, for any category. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, TikTok's done something really interesting where they suck you in immediately. The full screen playing video, right?
Well, what it is too is Facebook and Instagram are based on what's called a social graph. You see things based on the people you follow, you like, you are friends with. TikTok doesn't bother with that much at all. Like it does have a follow page with the people you follow, but they first display the things you're interested in. So it's on an interest graph, not a social graph, meaning like, what are things that you have shown to be interested in? And my favorite is whenever I speak about this publicly, there's always some schmuck in the crowd that goes, well, my TikTok's just a bunch of women in bikinis. It's like, literally every time, doesn't fail. If there's some outspoken person, it happened to me last week. So TikTok basically watches what you spend time watching and then immediately adjusts the algorithm to say, oh, this is what they're interested in. So you can game it too. You can hold on videos if you want to see more of those videos. And now mine's like comedy, business, and snowboarding, basically, and flying planes, things that I like to do. So it's
Well, mine's all golf now, and it hasn't improved my handicap at all.
No, but they'll tell you they will. There's a lot of videos that say they're going to help you.
There's actually two things I want to breakdown that you mentioned, and it's one of the mistakes that brands and companies make, and especially in real estate. I've been talking about this for a while, or we've been talking about this for a while, is going through the experience of a real estate transaction as a consumer, not as an agent. So as agents, sometimes we get blinders on and we're trying to sell ourselves and our name, right? And how good we are at what we do without going through the process as an actual buyer or seller. And your world will change when you zoom out and look at things from the aspect of a consumer, not from the aspect of an agent. There's a couple of people from Clubhouse on here, right? Like, and you go in these real estate rooms and it's an echo chamber of agents talk, patting each other on the back without really taking a walk through the process as a client. That is so critical. Like, what is the experience? What is, like you said, what's the funnel? Like, what do we go through there?
Yeah, it's a why and the why. That's the easy. And that's Simon Sinek is a great talk about start with why. It's how great leaders inspire action, I think is the actual title, but it's Start with Why is his book. But it's very simple. It's the reptilian side of the brain. People use logic to justify emotions. So what is the emotional reason that I am hiring an agent? It's because I'm scared shitless of making the biggest purchase of my life. And I want to know that someone's got my back to walk me through this so I don't make a huge mistake, because I can't afford a mistake. I can't buy a house. Like, again, most people that are buying a house, especially these days, are leveraging more than they could, I shouldn't say can afford, but like it is by far a huge chunk of the income people are making. Like, I don't know what the actual stats are there anymore, but I know that's way higher than it's ever been. And so when you're making these purchases, you need to know that the agent's actually going to walk you through it, because it's a complicated process to someone that's never done it.
No, absolutely. And part of that is something you mentioned, which is a unique selling proposition, right? So the GPG&x company, I mean, we're built on USPs, unique selling propositions, differentiators that allow you to separate yourself from the pack, the competition. Just your broad stroke thoughts on why that's so important as a brand, a company, a marketer.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. It's like, and again, those differentiators you want to be different. Like, what are things that people have pain with other agents that you can solve? Like, why is it that they don't like the other guy that they're going to like you? And sometimes that has to do with niching and understanding that like they want an expert in this specific area or this specific thing. It could be just the way your, terms work, whatever it is. A lot of times though, because there's a lot is just charge market, meaning like you're going to charge the commissions based on market. You're not going to change a lot of those things. It's just showing credibility. Like, again, most people hire agents because they don't know how to do it themselves. That's why they get an agent. It's time or expertise, bandwidth or expertise. Same reason we get hired at Hawke Media. People either don't have the time to go hunt down houses and sift through them all, and they want someone to go do it for them, or they don't know how, and they need someone to help them figure out how. They don't know how to run inspections. They don't know how to get through an escrow process. They need someone to walk them through everything. And so knowing that, how can you be the best option for that?
Right.
That's that. No. And that creates differentiators. If you say you're the best option just because you're best option, well, why aren't they the best option? What's different? Exactly. Like, what's different about you than them?
No, that's facts. I like that. Now listen. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. This is an interesting exercise, Erik. Knowing all you know about digital marketing, branding, advertising. Let's say you start a new career as, I don't know, a realtor. It's day one. You're
expired. My license expired, but
yeah. Well, okay. You're starting over again. Yeah. Where do you start? Day one, like you're a brand new agent, no budget. How would you market yourself?
I still love cold calling.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think that there's it's a numbers game, but like I'm still very close friends with the guy that I was next to in the cubicle when I was cold calling in 2008, telling people to sell their buildings at a time when it was like, are you fucking nuts? And still got 35 million in listings at a 21-year-old. Cause it's like you got to make a game out of it. But once you hear 1,000 no's, you don't care anymore. And you hold the phone, you don't even hang up. You hit the hang up button and dial the next number, and you get that list of 200 numbers. You just go, 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 go. There's a game about it, but it works. It still works because yes, you're going to get a lot of, swear words and a lot of people telling you to go away, but you're also going to get people who are like, oh no, actually. And it, takes one every once in a while for that to work. And then from there, you start to build, figure out where I'm all about least path of resistance in business. Like, you got to find a place that is being underserved, or you're just becoming a real estate agent is difficult as all hell because but most people undervalue it. And so they hire their cousin or their stepmom or whoever it is. They're like, yeah, they've got their license. I don't know what it is in Canada. It's not that hard to get a license here. So you end up, your competition is, it's same thing in my industry. I've had so many people tell me that they're it's between me and their nephew that just graduated from college that seems to know this social media stuff. So it's like we're 300 person organization. Like it's a little interesting that that's the comparison, but same thing happens in real estate is there's not really a barrier to entry. And so there's a lot of competition. So figuring out where that low-hanging fruit for you is, where that least path of resistance to getting customers that people are underserving, that's super important. Where can you build a brand? Where can you build a foundation? And again, cold calling is a great way to get started. And then I really like, once you get a listing, once you get a property, leveraging the absolute hell out of that to get more is super important. Everybody that comes and sees it, you should be like, hey, if you need help, happy to represent you on the buyer side. Like just, starting to build all those relationships. And that's, I know my cousin, everyone know who Josh Flagg is? $1 million listing. So my cousin it was a partner of his. And I actually was on the show with them. They called me up one day and said, we need you to come down and play a broker. So reality TV, by the way, I am on an episode of $1 Million Listing as a real estate agent when I was not longer a real estate agent. Yeah. But as an example, my cousin, when he was getting started, basically would host Josh's open houses. And when people would come in looking, if they didn't want that house, he'd then represent them on the buyer side. Buyer agent sucks. Don't get me wrong. Like if it's a slow market, it's, buyers are liars, favorite line. Like it's really, really annoying. But again, that's one path that you can potentially get started too. It's about getting that network going.
Yeah. And, as we say, success leaves clues. Get comfortable with the phone. That's the point, right? If you've got no budget, you got to pound the pavement. We had James Harris and David Parnes on not too long ago from $1 Million Listing. And, to get started, day one, they were in a new country, for crying out loud, had no client base whatsoever. They just knocked on doors until they got their first listing. And then they leveraged that to get more listings. You want to get more listings, get one listing, right? So I think that's important. Also too, it's different in Canada than it is in the States. It's a lot different. The barrier to entry is a lot higher here. So a little bit different.
Oh, is it? Okay. Cause it's like a weekend course. And
no, I know. We know. So that's where you would start. Now, let's say you do get that portfolio of listings, like you said, 350 million. You make some commission. You got a little bit of budget now. Where do you put it? What do you do with it to grow your brand?
I would probably go with TikTok right now. Honestly, TikTok has it's geo-fenced a lot of the time. So if you're posting local stuff, local people will see it. If you create great content, I'd just be creating content right now because you want to start and again, it's creating value around the idea of what people are looking for. I'd start there. And then, I just watched I Love You Man again, which, the billboard thing was hilarious. Again, this has to go with your brand. Like, who are you to your customers? Are you the polished, buttoned up person that's going to get the polished, buttoned up client? Are you the jokester that's going to get clients that want a little humor in this and it's not a big deal, which can go a long way too? Whatever it is, like, that's why it's like you can still do bus bench ads, you can still do billboards, you can still do all these things, but it's trying marketing. The best lesson I ever got in marketing was a guy that I still credit for like teaching me digital marketing. And he told me when we first met, he's like, marketing is just throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing what sticks, but having a really good way of monitoring what stuck. So it's not, don't be an analysis paralysis of where do I spend this? You got to get to a point that you can spend enough that you can try a few different things, start to see how it responds, start to double down on certain things. And also just have a thesis. Like marketing is very logical. So it's like, if I put a billboard up on a main thoroughfare, people coming into town, and it speaks to why people should hire me as their agent, not because, it doesn't just say, call me, I'll be your agent, but like it says something that's compelling. Will that work? And let's do the math. How much is it going to cost me? Let's say it's $5,000. Well, how much do I need to make off that? Do I need one listing? Do I think if I spend $5,000 for a month that I'll get one potential listing out of this? And if I do it for a year, will I get 12? I don't know. Like, let's try a couple things, start to see how that translates and start to get a gauge on it. So you have to take some risk with marketing, but these are all different things. Again, Facebook and Instagram ads can work. Google ads, if someone's searching for a home, popping up above it, a home in your town, those kind of things.
Yeah, that's interesting perspective. I was going to ask about your thoughts on the different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I think you've made that pretty clear. You think TikTok is leading the way.
Yeah, I mean, we're full pushing a lot of our content because we spend about, I think we're at 400 million a year on advertising, and I think it's a tiny portion of that is TikTok. And now I've instructed my team go full bore. We need to get our clients pivoting, not away from Facebook, but into TikTok. The idea is to if you have 10 grand, spending 10 grand on Facebook, spend 5 and 5. That's how we're doing. We're splitting it. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And then Yes, TikTok has paid advertising, correct? That was one of the questions from Julie.
Yes.
They do. A little pricey though, TikTok, I think.
I mean, again, it does, like the cost per impression doesn't matter as long as it performs.
Yeah, that's the exactly, as long as it performs, right? Right.
Yeah.
Like, how much is this going to make me? Not how much is this going to cost me? Is there anything we didn't think of that might be valuable for real estate agents? Maybe a piece of technology, an app, a platform.
Biggest thing is CRM. Like the biggest secret, like in my business included, like I am just religious about keeping in touch. So I have about, at this point, I think I'm about 18, 20,000 contacts that, like, what I've done is I set up. So like if I email someone, they're in my CRM. And if I haven't emailed someone in 3 months, it reminds me to check in. And then frankly, recently I just set up a template that I do once a month. That's basically, and people that know me know it's automated. People that don't. So I get really sincere responses. It's awesome. And people that know me always compliment me on this because like my subject lines are like, hey, how are you? And then the body will be like, hey, pick a name here. Hey, Abe, it's been too long. It's always been 3 months. So it's always been a little while. So it's been a while, or it's been too long. How are you? Would love an update on your end. On my end, whatever is exciting that month. On my end, I just launched an AI platform we've been building for 7 years. It basically plugs into your marketing, identifies how your marketing is performing, benchmarks you against your competition. Super exciting. We've already got 2,000 people paying for it. Would love an update on your end.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that every quarter to everyone in my email box. And I will tell you, sometimes I end up, because it's automated, meaning like I add everyone I email automatically. I'm emailing customer service lines that I like touched base because they didn't send me my product, like whatever it is, like it's in there. God forbid I accidentally email someone wrong. It's a numbers game. Because I do get responses like, hey, I think we were on an email together. I just got one. Like, I think we both invested in this company and we were just on an email together like 2 months ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, good to connect. He's like, hey, actually, it looks like you have a venture fund. We actually help family offices identify where to invest. We should talk. I'm like, oh, no shit. Sounds great. So it's like, you never know what's going to come of it. But part of it is like, I set up the funnel so I keep my CRM building. And then I constantly try to meet new people and email them. My tactic is get people's email. I went to a conference, hence why I was in New York. So I went to a conference yesterday. It was amazing. It was 40 people and 3 speakers. Kathy Wood from ARK Investments, which is decimated right now, but one of the biggest tech ETFs, David Solomon, CEO of Goldman Sachs, and Howard Marks, the CEO of Oaktree Capital, one of the biggest private equity funds. And yeah, in the room, I met a few people. I have a thing called Captio on my phone. It's a $2 iPhone app that looks like this. And all it does is I type in whatever, hit send, and it sends it to my email box. So I'll be like, oh yeah, we should connect. Here, throw your email in and I'll email you later. Because off my phone, it doesn't track it. When I get back to my computer, I email them. They're all immediately in my CRM. So if they never respond, I'm checking again in 3 months automatically. And if they do respond, now we're having a conversation. So I'm just super diligent about keeping my network growing and keeping in touch. Because with you guys, same thing. You never know when someone's going to need a house or know someone that needs a house. But if you're touching base every quarter, that's not overdone. No one's going to be annoyed that they hear from you on a 3-month basis. They might never respond. Happens to me all the time. I'll look back at CAPTIO. I'll look back at email chains and I'll have emailed them like, let's say 15 times in 4 years, and like they haven't responded, but all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, actually, hey, my wife needs marketing, or I know someone that needs this. Same thing in your industry. That by far is the easiest lifeblood. Everything else, it builds off of that. But that right there is what has built our company, is going out and about, meeting people, networking, and then keeping in touch with everyone and not letting it slip.
Listen, I hope everybody was paying close attention to what Erik just broke down over the last 5 minutes, because that's key to everything we've talked about here. It's like one thing to be, to understand advertising and marketing, but if you have no one to sell to and no one you're staying in touch with or touching, there's no point to any of it. So I think that's an incredible takeaway over the last couple of minutes there. Was everybody paying attention, taking notes? Captio. I just literally as you were talking, I downloaded Captio. I did.
It's great. It's super easy. Yeah. It's like I haven't had a business card in 6 years because my team asks. And by the way, little note about business cards: don't use them. It takes away all your power, like completely. Like if you give someone your business card and then you wait, like congratulations, that is a really bad move in sales. You get their contact. So like, no, I don't have a card. My favorite thing. Oh, do you have a card? No, I don't. But here, just throw your email in here. I'll send you my info.
Yo, I haven't had a business card in 10 years. Nathan, probably same. App there? Because App just did a video on burn your business cards. which was
Let's not kill the trees. I don't think we need to make business cards to burn them.
Yo, you got to watch Apathy's video on burn your business cards. It's really good. He's currently indisposed. He's indisposed. Okay, to wrap up, Erik, I know you work hard, play hard. I know this about you. You go heli snowboarding.
Yep.
You got your pilot's license, right?
Yep.
Tell me a bit more about how you approach that work-life balance. Maybe tell us about Monaco and the BHAG you had, that pivotal moment. That pivotal moment in 2017, you had that turning point in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely work my absolute ass off, but I believe that I believe in work-life harmony, not balance, if that makes sense. I think balance connotes opposing forces, where it's like, it's not about balance. It's not about having your life and your work contentious with each other. It's about finding a way that it all can blend together so that it's not always that. And so, yeah, the Monaco realization was, and it's the most pretentious story that I'll tell, but it's a real story.
Listen, it is very elitist, Erik. So when you just temper this with like, yes, it is very pretentious, but it makes sense. I get it. It makes the point. It makes the point.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have a friend that lives in Monaco. So when 2017 hit, 3 years into Hawke was making a ton of money and we were doing really well. And I went, I'm going to make this my bucket list year. I started the year by going heli boarding with some Canadian entrepreneur friends, and I've done it every year since. But my wife was turning 30 and we said, I was like, well, for your 30th, why don't we just do like south of France? Like we've never done that. And so we did Saint-Tropez, we did Cannes, and didn't know, but it's the Cannes Film Festival during this time. So we did Saint-Tropez, Cannes, and then Monaco. And if you guys don't know, it's like an hour drive between all of these. So we did Saint-Tropez, Cannes, and then Monaco for the Grand Prix, long before it became crazy popular again. And stayed with a friend in Monaco. And I have another friend that won the lottery. And he won $107 million in the lottery. And he was out there. And so he's like, hey, I'm staying at the Fairmont, which is like right on one of the main turns. It's a beautiful hotel right on the water. Come hang out. $25,000 a night hotel during that weekend. I was not staying there, but I go meet up with him and my wife. We're sitting on the roof and I'm looking out over the ocean. And at that point, Hawke Media had done 5 million in revenue the year before and was on track to do 10 that year. And I was staring at it and I'm like, I'm working my ass off right now and I've capped out. Like I'm putting as much time as I can possibly put into a business. I work day and night. I'm grinding. I'm at my cap. And with how I'm doing, I'll make good money, but I'll never be able to afford one of those $200 million yachts out there. Not that I want one. This is not actually an exercise in materialism. It was more, I want the opportunity. I want the option. I want the freedom of being able to do that. So I was like, I need to go back and rework my business so that I can actually do something like that. Came back, and basically that week, I punted all of the selling. Our number, by the way, that's a note that I missed. I was doing 85% of our sales. And I had one sales guy that was kind of doing it. And I was hiring a couple more. And that week I was like, that's it. I'm not doing any selling anymore. Anyone that wants to work with us, I'm giving them to the sales team. It's more scalable. I can't be a funnel for our sales. I've got to be able to go grow top of funnel, figure out how to expand the business. I can't be a seller anymore. And we declined in revenue. That was end of May. June, July were months we declined. My sales team does not close like I do. And I had to live with that. But then August, it started ramping back up. And again, we ended up ending the year at 10 million anyways, without me doing all the selling. And then we kept growing. And so we, have tripled the business since then too, based on that. So that was a big realization in scalability and sustainability and me not being a key man risk. That being said, I will say since then, I've also learned that nobody's ever going to care about your business like you. Mm-hmm. If you hire people, if you scale yourself, you build a team, their worst case scenario is getting a new job. Your worst case scenario is everything falling apart. It's just a different level of urgency that's always going to exist. So that's important to remember, but there's a balance there that you do want to find people that can work that job.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. We talk about BHAGs all the time, right? Your big, hairy, audacious goal. You need to have that in real estate or whatever business you're in. So it's kind of cool. Like you had that pivotal moment, right? You had that pivotal moment where you created that BHAG at that moment. So whatever drives you. Last question, Erik, we're still in the denouement. This is still the wrap up. What are you doing for personal growth right now? How are you investing back into yourself?
I have an 8-week-old. So I'm building my first kid. So I am starting a family, I think, is probably the way I feel like I'm investing myself and those around me, spending time with my new daughter.
Listen, Erik, thank you so much for joining us today. A real privilege to have you. Big round of applause for Erik. Thank you very, very much.